So you've decided that an electric vehicle is the car for you. And let's be honest, if you're a regular viewer to the channel, you'll know that most manufacturers offer them. From small super minis to large electric SUVs, it is a buyer's choice. But let's be honest, new electric cars can still be expensive. So what happens if your budget doesn't match your desire to go electric? Well, that leaves you looking at the used car market, and that's no bad thing. Whereas literally hundreds of them for sale. And if you click on the little banner up at the top of the screen now, that will take you to AutoEV's classified section on our website, where you will find plenty to choose from. But what do you need to be looking for? What is it you need to do when looking at a used electric car? I mean, it's not simply a case of dipping the oil and kicking the tyres. What servicing's required? What do warranties cover? How long does batteries last? Don't fear, we're going to take you through that in the first of our used car buyer guides. Today we've come to Chandler's BMW in Worthing to look at one of my personal favourite cars, the BMW i3, and what, if you're looking for a used one, you should be looking out for. Now, it'd be very easy for me as an ex-car salesperson to talk you through the car, but who's going to trust an ex-car salesperson? No, instead we've come today to ask the experts, so that's why we're here at Chandler's BMW in Worthing. We've got Alex Hode with us today, who's the BMW i specialist at the dealership. Welcome, Alex. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
No problem.
Alex, the i3's been out now for 6 years. 2013 it was introduced.
That's it.
Can you talk us through the different variants of the i3 there's been since launch? Because it can be quite confusing for people. So what's the different models that we've had?
Of course, so the i3 they've actually done in 3 different battery variants. They've had a 60 amp model, 94 amp model, and then recently the 120 amp model is the new battery that they offer on that. And of course, the higher the ampage, the more mileage you get on electric. They also offered a Rex extender, so it's a range extender model. And effectively that just means that it has a petrol engine that runs alongside the battery. It's actually a generator, so it doesn't power the wheels in any fashion, just recharges the battery as you go along. Okay, perfect. And then since then, am I right in thinking as well the range extender is no longer available? When did that get discontinued? Was that quite recently? It was at the beginning of this year, so beginning of 2019, they stopped the range extender model as a new car, and that's just simply because the 120 amp battery came out, and because it has a higher range of electric, they didn't feel it was necessary to offer the petrol extension. And roughly what sort of range should you expect from, say, one of the earlier cars to now the very latest cars? What's the differences in the range of the battery-only vehicles from the first car to the very latest ones? So if you started with the 60 amp model, they do about 85 miles of electric range, up to 100 if you're driving very sensibly. If you went for the 94 amp model, they're about 115 miles of electric range, and now the 120 amp battery is about 155 miles of range. If you add the range extender model onto that, so the petrol generator, it adds about 70 to 80 miles of range, again depending on driving style. And I'm also right in thinking now there's different trim levels within the car, because I think there's an i3S now, is that correct? This is it, so we're stood next to the i3S today. Obviously this one you can see it's a slightly more sporty looking front end. Yep. It has slightly lower suspension, different alloy wheels, and it's a slightly faster model as well. It actually accelerates a little bit faster to 60, but otherwise it's really just aesthetic things more than anything on the i3S model. So, Alex, if I was here today looking to buy a BMW i3, a pre-owned car, what type of thing should it come with? Is there anything that it should come with in terms of the charging cables or bits and pieces that should be with the car if one of our viewers is actually looking to buy a used car? What should it have? So on the BMW i3, they come with a 3 pinpoint charging cable as standard. Of course, you can buy an extra wall box charging cable if you wanted to. They don't come with the car as standard. The other things that really you'd be looking out for is just things like the towing eye for the BMW and the lock-in wheel nut, but again, standard things on any sort of used car that you'd be looking at, really, nothing specific. And in terms of, you mentioned there the home charging wall box, did BMW offer that? Are they in partnership with someone? Do you sort that out, or would the buyer then have to go and do that on their own? So BMW, we can get involved in helping to have a wall box installed at home. They're charged, they're linked with Chargemaster even, and effectively we can just help get involved in that, and they effectively just partner with them and offer a box that is the BMW box. Now, obviously the car's been out for 6 years now, Alex, and people are a little bit worried about the gestation of batteries.
If you were looking to buy a car that was 6 years old, would you have any issues with regards to the longevity of the batteries? Would you have any concerns about that? What did BMW say in terms of how they cover batteries?
So BMW, as long as you continue to service the car at a BMW centre or a BMW approved centre, they will cover the battery for up to 8 years or 100,000 miles. So you get an 8-year warranty on the battery with BMW. In my experience, there's not been any issues with the battery so far, but of course it's one of these things. With the warranty, you'd be covered if there was an issue anyway.
And then with generally overall the car, because it's not based on the current BMW products, it's not an electric 3 Series, it was a brand new car. Has there been any other issues with the i3 that people should be aware about? Any major recalls or any particular things that was prominent in the life of the car that people should be looking out for?
Realistically, no, actually there's not on these. There's not really been any sort of major problems that BMW have had with them. There's not been any major recalls that have affected a lot of vehicles. And actually, yeah, to be fair, they've held up quite well. As you say, it's a born electric car, so it's new ground, but it's done okay so far.
Now, the other thing that people are going to be concerned about, Alex, is servicing of an electric car, because I think there's a lot of confusion now. People realise, is there a difference? Is it just the same as any other BMW to service? What's the service intervals on the i3?
So as with most BMWs, it's actually condition-based servicing. So you service things as and when they need doing. A standard scope on a service like this is about 18,000 miles normally, which obviously it depends on the driving style, how many miles you're doing a year in the car. It's between 200 and 250 pounds for service cost, depending on the model that you buy. But otherwise, yes, there's not really much that needs servicing on them because it's all electrical components rather than an engine.
And in terms of also, because they use the regenerative braking system, is there any concerns over brake pads and discs being used heavier, or again you're not seeing that sort of thing happening?
No, in all honesty, actually you'd probably use less brake pads and discs on this car than normal, because of course the engine braking on this model with the sort of one pedal feel, as they call it, you actually don't use as many brakes and pads and discs as you would normally. Okay.
And I noticed as well, they've got quite thin tyres on the i3. I mean, I've driven an i3 and they handle really well, but considering are they like eco tyres, so they'll be a little bit less expensive as well?
They are very, very cost effective. Compared to a lot of BMWs, they're much, much cheaper because, as you say, smaller tyres, they're not run flat tyres either. So.
Okay. And are they specific brand that BMW recommend? Again, is that something people should be looking for, to have that specific brand of tyre on, and what is it?
To be honest with you, actually, there's a lot of tyres that they can recommend for the i3. There's several different brands that BMW can recommend, so there's not a particular model that you'd need to look out for, and I certainly wouldn't be worried if you saw a different tyre from one car to another.
Okay. Now, pricing, as I say, we know the car's now 6 years old, but you as an approved BMW dealer, I mean, what sort of where would people be looking at a starting price from a dealer like yourselves up to whatever it would be for the latest model, like a demonstrator car? What sort of price range are we looking at?
To be honest with you, some of the older models, so 5-6 years old, then they could be anywhere from sort of early teens, so 13,000–14,000 pound cars, all the way up to sort of 40,000 pounds if you go for one that's almost brand new. Of course, as with most BMWs, again, there's a lot of options that you can have on these cars. So if you find a highly spec'd model, it could be well over £40,000 as a list price, which again, pre-registered and demonstration cars.
And in terms of that specification that you've just spoken about there, again, is there a particular, I know from when I was selling cars, there was certain, you must have that on a certain model or something. So is there something you would say, don't buy an i3 unless it has anything particular, or? Do
you know what, honestly, there's not a standout option on these cars that's sort of the must-have. It's all personal preference. There's lots of different things they do, technology and visual-wise as well. So it's all about what you want, really, personally.
Alex, it's a really nice interior on the i3. It's one of my favourite cars, as I've said before on the channel. But am I right in thinking there's different interior trim levels? Because this is quite nice, this particular one, but there's different ones you can get. What are those trim levels? So
this is the standard interior. This is just the BMW iCloth. So of course you have the nice blue accents and things, as with the outside of the car on a lot of the models. They actually do the lodge, loft, and the lounge interiors as well. So it's really just different coloured cloth or leather options. You get different dashboard options too, and it changes things like the steering wheel as well, and the sort of lower part of the car too. And
I know you said earlier there wasn't a sort of like must-have option, but is there a sort of preferred one that most people go for, or is it just most people's choice is just what they choose?
It is, yeah, genuinely. Of course, certain colour interiors will work better with coloured exteriors as well. This one, of course, with the nice red that we have on this car, it works very well, and it might not be quite so good with the sort of lighter interiors, maybe something like that. But it's all personal preference, and again, yeah, it's what you like.
And Alex, am I right in thinking that a buyer would be able to check the service history of the car rather than the old school way of looking through a service book, that the car actually logs the servicing? And how would I be able to check that?
Exactly that. So as you go into your system here, if you go to your main menu, which is this one here, and scroll across to My Vehicle, down to your vehicle status here, and then come across to your service requirements, and at the top there you can see service history. And this one, of course, this car is fairly new, it's not done a lot of mileage at all, so you can see there it's only had its pre-delivery inspection so far, not any actual BMW services. But if you went for a car that had had any services done at a BMW centre, they'd be listed on there with the mileage and the date that they were done as well.
So there you have it, all you need to know about buying a pre-owned BMW i3. Remember, you can search for BMW i3s on our classified section on our website by clicking on the banner above. Also remember to like and subscribe to the videos for more episodes, and we will be doing more of these used car buyer guides in the future. Also remember, you can order your copy of issue 2 of the AutoEV magazine. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, as well as Twitter, and as I say, all our other episodes on YouTube. I'd like to thank Alex and Chandler's BMW Worlding today for their assistance, and we've actually found this lovely BMW i3 for sale. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe, and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded. Sorry, what's that? You want more than just videos? Okay, did you know that AutoEV is also a website? That's right, autoev.co.uk. Not only is it all the latest news, reviews and musings, including motorsport from the electric vehicle world, but we've got literally hundreds of used electric vehicles for sale from dealers up and down the country.